Good evening. Can you hear me well? All right. Thank you for being here this evening. And as my young friend said, I represent a company called UST Global. So I want to do two things this evening so that it could possibly be helpful for you. Okay, I will introduce my company to you and give you a little bit idea about what we do, and leave you with the opportunity to ask questions about it and all that. But what I also want to do is to sort of provoke you to think slightly in a different line regarding a topic that is very close to my heart. I am a student of leadership. I'm a student of, I studied leadership. My PhD was in leadership. So I want to challenge you this evening to try and, make you think a little differently about the whole concept of leadership. Is that okay with you? Right? So we'll try and do two things, okay? And I'll try and wrap up in about 50 to 60 minutes, and then give you sufficient time to ask questions, right? Of course, the rider of asking questions is, if I don't know the answer, I'm going to say no, I don't know the answer, and probably get back to you or whatever it is. But that shouldn't stop you from asking questions. Ask anything that you would like, okay? And you can also ask during the session itself. Just lift up your hand, and I like it being interactive, so don't hesitate and don't have to wait till we finish. So let's try and make it as interactive as possible. Okay, is that a deal? All right, good. So let me first give you an idea about what UST Global is. What is this company about? It's actually just a company. It's a company just about 15 years old. Okay, it's not that it's not too much into this thing. We are we were till IT services company, like the a smaller version of IBM and Accenture and Cognizant and Wipros and TCS and all that. And a couple of years back, we decided that we got to intentionally change track of what we are doing, and so as a company we decided to change course, and that is where we are today. So let's look at what we do. Your audio on? about, right? And I guess you got the gist of where we are. You know, I'm sure you know this by now. Digitization or being digital is no more limited to sci-fi, science fiction, or James Bond movies, right? It is a reality today. Artificial intelligence and robots and I mean those things are real, right? It is self-driving cars. I mean 10 years back if we saw something similar in a James Bond movie, we would have thought, oh goodness, this is a great thing. But today it's a reality, isn't it? It's a reality. So digitization is something that none of us can escape, right? I'm sure all of you use apps for Uber and maybe Airbnb and other stuff, which is changing the world around. The whole experience, right? And actually, as a user, you don't see that there's anything digital in it, but you get a great experience, right? And that's really what actual digitization is about. That is actually what actual digitization should do. Make the user experience great, right? And that's really what we are trying to change our own organization into. So when we looked at, okay, what should we do, right? What should we do to be a digital company? What we found is there are primarily there are three drivers that we found that we need to address from an organizational point of view, right? And that is these three drivers of the engaging the clients, engaging the employees with the organization, and then building their capability, and then of course working on the organizational elements of it, right? And when we look at for example, if we look at the engagement piece, we see that that the employees who come into an organization today are very different from what it was coming into the organization, whether it is in thought, whether it is in racial, whether it is in ethnicity, whether it is in sexual orientation, whether it is in sexual preferences, whether it is in gender or whatever it is, So there is a whole lot of diversity coming along, and then of course people are born with learning. I mean today a young kid would manage a smartphone much better than any of us could, right? So they are born with learning, and they learn well and come. And of course because of the availability of network and things like that, the world has really become more than flat. It has become small, right? And it's very interconnected and things like that. So those were the challenges that we got. And when we look at capability, what we found is that these are some of the capabilities that we need to develop, that they need to be innovative, think differently, think out of the box, and they need to be able to narrate their own stories, So it is not just being able to develop something, but also being able to tell a story about it and then sell it, and of course in a digitized manner. And from an organization, obviously the organization needs to be agile, think quickly, move, make decisions quickly, move on, and the whole concept of organization. If you look at organizations like Facebook, for example, right? They don't have a clear organization structure, right? They pick up a particular project, and that project team sits around Zuckerberg's office. That's how the whole the organization works. They don't have structures, and the team is not fixed. They finish their project, they move on, somebody else comes in, occupies their seats, and works. So the whole work is becoming really project-based and obviously flat and entrepreneurial, where decisions are made quick, and the startups are the challenge of the day and things like that. So these are some of the challenges that we had to deal with when we thought about how do we create a digital company, how do we make our employees inculcate the digital mindset or embrace the digital mindset, right? And so from a enablement point of view, from a development point of view, GAMA basically stands for our function, L&D function, which I lead, the leadership and learning and development function. we came up with this strategy, what we call as the 4-to-4 strategy, where we looked at there are certain set of expected outcomes, which is basically the same: client success and business growth, the digital culture, and engaged workforce, and things like that. And to make that happen, we found that we need to address 3 areas. That is we need to engage them, we need to enable the employees, and we need to provide a great experience for them to learn and develop and things like that. So I won't go into details of all of this, but we have sub elements for all of this. So basically we build up a whole strategy of developing people into this area. So these are some of the things that we work on, and then so some of the focus areas that we work on, obviously the Uberization of everything that we do, whether it is learning, whether it is employee engagement, whether it is recruitment, whether it is development of a project and things like that, right? And of course the content itself, obviously it needs to be strong, and then disruption, diversity and disruption, right? And build partner ecosystem. We don't need to do everything ourselves. It is that part is over, where everything gets vertically integrated. We believe it is no more the way to go. We have to depend on others who have the strength, and build a partner ecosystem, infuse the right talent. I'll come back in a minute here. And then of course they build the digital culture along with it. Yes. Yeah, it is. It depends. Sometimes they would prefer to have their content for us to be able to digitize and provide a user experience, an excellent user experience. But sometimes they may come and ask us to provide that content too. So it depends on what is the client's need. So we work with it. But immaterial of what it is, we need to work on. We need to be expert in that, right? So we need to build that expertise in that. That's really what I meant. So those are some of the areas that we focus from a talent development point of view internally within the organization. And this is how we building the leadership journey, what we call as the digital leadership journey, right? And so basically what we believe is that digital leadership is a mindset. It is more of a mindset than just a set of competencies or set of skills or set of attributes and things like that. It is more of a mindset, and that mindset is what we are trying to develop. And these are some of the areas where we are working on: human-centric design thinking, right? Then algorithms, analytics, artificial intelligence or augmented reality, social mobility, IoT, and security. So these are basically the areas that we are focusing as an organization today. And what we are wanting to build is really what we call as the T-shaped leaders who would know about all of them and develop expertise in one of those specific areas, so that they become real experts in one of those areas, pick up one of those areas and do. So that's really what we are looking at. So that's actually what I wanted to tell you about what we do at UST, right? Let's here and see if you have any questions about the organization itself. And I want to switch, and talk to you about on the leadership itself, on the topic of leadership, as something different from what we have heard, and I want to challenge you on a new thought. So first, let me ask you about the organization. Do you have any questions? No? All right. Yeah. Please. Yeah. 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 So basically, in the project that we deal, we will need two types of expertises. One is the expertise on the domain. For example, if we are building something for, let's say, a healthcare client, right? Somebody needs to know the industry. Somebody needs to know what healthcare is about, who are the players in that, and what are the key things that are required in that, and stuff like that. So there is a domain expertise required. and then there is and to build that solution, there has to be multiple technology stacks available. So we bring those multiple technology people together and then build it. So obviously it needs to be specialists, and that's where the T-shaped one comes in. Somebody who knows reasonably enough, what we call as the jack of all, right? We need to know a little bit about everything, but we can't be just gassing about those things. Somebody needs to know a little bit more detail about let's say an AngularJS or an RPA or whatever. They took to throw some technology jargons at you, right? So those are some of the ways we use it. Yeah. All right. No questions. Okay.
What prompted you to change?
Good question. We realized that if we don't, we won't be there after 5 years. Very simple, right? Our name would be, erased from the. I mean, just imagine. Look at Walmart, right? Who ever thought that the biggest competition for Walmart would come from a company that used to sell books, right? Amazon at one point in time was just a bookseller, right? And today you look at an area where is he is there everywhere, right? Literally everywhere, everything is there, and he has become a competitor for for Walmart. He is becoming a competitor for Microsoft because he has got his own Amazon Web Services and stuff like that. He is becoming a competitor for many other things, right? So that's really, so we don't know where the competition will come from. So unless we change and we are, what we call as, rather than be followers of the technology trend, unless we accelerate ourselves, we wouldn't be there. And we realized that that staying in IT services alone is not going to help us. And I'm sure all the IT services companies are realizing that. So the TCSs of the world, Cognizants or Wipros or they're all realizing it, and they are all cutting headcount and things like that. But yes, we did. I think we did realize at the right time, and it is good that we also are. Of course, we have some visionaries in our leadership team and things like that, and we get help from people like Ram Charan. Have you heard about Ram Charan? He's a management guru, leadership guru, organizational transformation and things like that. So he's in our advisory board, and so we do get tips from him to see when we need to change and things like that. So.
How challenging was it to make a decision of changing from IT services?
Oh, very, very difficult, because see, it is what is bringing us today. If you look at today, we are when we took that decision, 96 or 97% of our revenues were coming from IT services business, and at that time to make that decision to change was a painful decision. Certainly, it wouldn't have been easy at all for the leadership to say that, okay, look, today almost 100% of my revenue is coming from one stream, but I need to change, and I need to dump that area and move on to another area. It's a very difficult decision. It's a very difficult decision. Yeah. But that is what I'm sure when you study change management, you will realize you got to at some point in time take that decision and create what we call as that burning platform for that change, right? And that is what we decided to do. Yeah.
What was the most difficult thing that the organization faced in transforming?
Well, I would put it in the present tense rather than what was. We are still facing that. We have not done that change yet. Obviously, availability of the right technologists, right? Availability of the skilled people is one of the things. But the most difficult one is to change the mindset of the people, to say that, look, we are changing from this into another, and to sort of jolt them out of their comfort zone and say that, look, guys, we got to do differently, right? And then initiate this process of reskilling this whole workforce into, for example, when some of the bigger companies like Cognizant started their digital journey, they created a group of people who were experts in digital technologies, right? And that was sufficient for them. But for a company like us, we have 15,000 employees, right? Compared to 200,000 of Cognizant or 325,000 of TCS or whatever it is, right? So for us, we took a decision that we are not going that way. We are going to change the entire company into a digital company. Not that we create one vertical, which will be called a digital, vertical. So that was a big challenge, right? And so we are still going through that. We're still working, finding out how we can overcome that and stuff like that. Yeah, I think, yeah. Absolutely, and we are happy to be part of that. Actually, we are part of the Digital India campaign, and we have recently signed up with the Madhya Pradesh government for a big deal on actually Madhya Pradesh is what you talk about exams in Madhya Pradesh. What do you think about? Right, you think about that Vyapam, this thing and all that, right? So we are actually moving there to transform their exam system completely and things. So that's one of the things that we are trying to do. Transforming where there is a problem, we want to step in and see how we can change it and things like that. So yes, that does open a huge amount of opportunities. And India is a land of opportunities, no doubt about it. With the, our own very unique mix of rural and urban setups, our own jugaad mentality, right? When the Aadhaar scheme started as the Unique Identification Authority of India, a lot of people thought, brought a lot of huge technologies and stuff like that. But ultimately, what we went for was something simple, but something that works. And now it is becoming really the backbone of personal data and things like that. So we have that mix of jugaad and technology which works, and so yeah, it is a great opportunity always. India is a great opportunity. Always, yes. Sorry. Yeah. It will always be there. There will always be somebody who would say, I can do it faster, I can do it cheaper, because cost is always a major factor in India, right? And we still have to ultimately deal with the issues like corruption and things like that. Though we hope that one day we won't have to, but the reality today is we got to, right? So those challenges are there. But how do we still remain? How do we still maintain our integrity and still do the business and things like that? Those are certainly challenges that come in with doing with business with any government agency for that matter, and it's not different. Sorry.
So you said that 97% of the revenues are coming from IT. Now changing your entire process and moving to a company like this, do you think at that point of time slow and steady changes will work?
Yeah, I guess the what we used to learn in a primary school, that slow and steady wins the race, probably is no more true. It's a debatable issue. So actually it is basically a decision that it's an executive decision that somebody needs to take, and we thought we need to be agile and move fast on it. So we are obviously not throwing away what is there, but we are trying to help transform all those businesses into digital businesses. Right? So that is the way we are transforming. We haven't cut any headcount based on this. We are basically, like I said, we are trying to convert the whole company into a digital company and convert our existing businesses into digital businesses and things like that. So that's what we are really trying to do. Okay. All right. I will give you more opportunity to ask questions. Thank you for asking questions. It's always good. It makes sure that you don't sleep and I don't sleep either. Right. So I want to switch, like I said, and give talk to you. You know that the world is becoming digital, right? And a lot of decision making is based on analytics, data, and things like that. And artificial intelligence is taking over. Augmented reality is becoming a reality, and stuff like that. So the question that I want to ask today is this evening is, in this particular case, does human leadership matter? Does it matter? Right? So you're all nodding your heads saying yes, it does matter. Right? So, of course, John Maxwell says that everything rises and falls on leadership, and though he said it almost 10 years back, it is still valid, right? It is true. Ultimately, because ultimately when digital structure comes in, it is still, it is the human needs, the human touch, and meeting the human, based approach to design and things like that matters. And so we still need, leaders and leadership. So I want to try and address this question and try and find out. Can you do me a favor? Can you please take out a loose sheet from your writing pad? Tear out one sheet. Okay, but just a small sheet is enough. Okay, let's do a small exercise. Yeah, you can actually convert into two. That is too big. Small sheet is enough. Okay. And in your own words, okay, everybody's got a paper, right? So in your own, what is your definition of leadership? Okay, just a few words will be enough. I'm not asking you to write an essay. Okay, we are not writing a book right now. Just leadership is how do you define leadership? Okay, it's an individual exercise, so do it yourself. What is leadership according to you? Okay, are we done? Yes. All right. So can I borrow yours? I won't embarrass you, but thank you. Can you all stand up with this paper in your hand? Okay. And I'm going to ask you to do a fun activity. Okay. First of all, do this. Okay. Now, assume that you are children and you are in a place filled with snow. What would you do? Yeah, let's do that. Okay? Let's have a snowball fight. Come on. Pick it up and throw again. Can somebody come here? Pick up some of this? Yeah? Pick it up and throw again. Come on. Everybody should be getting hit at least once. All right. Good. Can you please pick up one snowball and sit down? Make sure that you have one snowball with you. You didn't get took away yours. All right. Did everyone get one? Okay. I'm sure some of them must be lost, but it's okay. Those of you who got, can you please open it and read it for yourself? And the question that I want you to answer is this. How many of you got back exactly what you wrote? Yeah. I knew there has to be some exception always, right? Did you throw it off? You did. Okay. You got blank. Okay, that's even better. You also got your own paper. Wow, this probability doesn't work here. So another blank paper? Okay, all right. That's good. So, those of you got something which is not your own, does it read exactly the same as what you wrote? At best, what you may get is something similar, right? I'm sure something similar sounding and things like that, right? Now, what I wanted to do is to help you realize that leadership is a topic that is defined in a million ways. Right? I can do this exercise with 1,000 people in the room. The result will be the same. Right? It will always be different because everyone has got our own ideas about leadership and things like that. And it's not surprising because it is a topic that is studied so many. If you do a Google search on leadership, you end up with about 20 million odd results on leadership, right? Books. Amazon must be having again millions of books on leadership and things like that, right? So it is natural that we have our own ideas about it. It's good about that we have our own ideas about leadership and things like that. But what I want to do is to look at this and tell me what are some of the words that stand up and stand out, speak to you. Social influence, vision, actions, right? But behind all this, the John Maxwell. I like John Maxwell. He's one of my favorite writers. He says this: leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. Now, I don't know whether you agree with it or not, but think about any leader, good, bad, ugly, it doesn't matter. Okay, it could be Mahatma Gandhi, it could be Mother Teresa, it could be Martin Luther King, it could be Osama bin Laden or Hitler. Okay, it doesn't matter. But let's think about any leader, right? And tell me, what do they really do? What do they really do? They influence the thoughts and actions of others so that their principles, their goals are accepted, understood, and supported. Right? That's ultimately what every leader does. Now, how they do obviously is different, and they follow different paths and things like that. But leadership is ultimately influencing somebody, right? And that is where the concept of leadership is never going to lose its basic relevance of influencing others to do certain things. So is the case in digital too. So when digitization comes, a leader would be somebody who influences others to follow a digital culture or adopt a digital culture or adopt a digital mindset and things like that, or who is successful in influencing others and things like that, right? So I think this particular definition simplifies it for us and say that, look, this is what it is. So anything that we do to influence others becomes a leadership action, right? And so obviously there are multiple ways in which people have tried to do this, tried to study leadership and things like that. And but why is it such a big thing? Why is leadership such a big thing? Right? Now you're all in a very prime institute, right? Studying management here, and once you are graduated, or even before you graduate, you will be picked up by huge organizations, and you will be paid fat, handsome salaries and all that, isn't it? You don't like the second part of the statement, is it? Not enough. Okay, all right. At least let me say, you would all get placed somewhere. Some organizations will pick you up, right, and give you a job, give you a position, right, and give you salary too. But maybe you are not happy with it. Somebody else is getting more or whatever it is. But you will get a position. Some organization is going to pick you up and place you in their organization. Why would they do that? Tell me. Why would they do that? Why would an organization come here, interview you guys, and pick you up and put you in their organization? What is the ultimate objective of doing that? Why? Why would they want future leaders in their organization?
Get the work done.
To get the work done, right? And what does getting the work done mean? What do you want to get the work done for? For? Yeah, that's it, right? Ultimately, of course, profit, but maybe some of you are large-hearted enough to join an NGO, which is not a profit-oriented organization. But even there, you are selected because they expect you to produce results, isn't it? You are there in an organization because you are expected to produce results. So organizational results are very important, and that's why all of us are part of any organization. Now, what are some of the things that impact an organizational result? Sorry? Employees will obviously, yes, they are one of the most obvious things is the quality of employees and the way they perform will impact. What else will impact the organization results? Their innovation, right? Their strategies and market conditions, right? Or economic situations, whether there is demonetization or no demonetization, it will impact the results. What is the inflation rate will depend on. So there's a number of things that depends, right? The government policies, economies, and things like that, and strategy, innovation, and all that stuff, ultimately impact the organizational results. But as we said, the employee is a key part of how organizations would produce their results, right? So their results matter, right? What individual results the employees produce matter. Now, what actually matters? What actually impacts the results, individual results of employees? What do you think are some of the things that impact the employees' individual results? The work culture in the company, right? Sorry? Their perception whether the organizational objective is good, is connected with what I'm doing, do I have a connect with that and things like that, right? So of course, there are many other things, motivational factors, both internal and external, but ultimately, how I feel to be part of this organization matters, right? If I get up on a Monday morning and say, oh goodness gracious, I have to go back to this wretched place again because I have to earn a living, right? That's one feeling. Or you're feeling, hey, it's Monday and I got to go to this place, right? And I love going to this place. Right? That's a different feeling, right? So how you feel to be part of the organization, and the management term for that is what we call the organizational climate, right? How do you feel to be part of that organization makes a big impact. Now tell me, what impacts the way you feel to be part of the organization? What impacts the way you feel to be part of the organization? What are some of the things that impact whether you feel good to go to work, or you don't you feel miserable and wretched? The manager, is it? Your immediate superior. What do you see your immediate superior doing to you? Yeah. Work culture of the organization. Whether I am contributing, whether I am connected to the big picture, whether I am connected, or whether I am just doing something which I don't see any connection at all. Yeah. I am appreciated. Yes, absolutely. Right. So those are some of the things that ultimately work on it. Right. But one of the key things that we said is how leaders behave in the organization. What is the leader's behavior? What is my immediate supervisor's behavior is a big part, because when I go, ultimately I got to be working with somebody who will be giving me directions. I expect appreciation. I expect that person to give me the organizational vision. I expect that person to motivate me and things like that, or that person can really make my life miserable, right? So what type of behavior do that people do, right? And so what impacts the leader's behavior? As a leader, now let us switch back to the leader, the supervisor or the manager. What are some of the things that impact his or her behavior? His or her own attitude, all right? What else? Within the organization, yes, sure. The culture that he or she comes from, okay? The type of exposure that he or she has got, yes, whether she has got a narrow exposure or more, and more tactically the amount of salary that he or she is getting, right? Or the type of motivation he or she is getting and all that stuff. So all that is there, but ultimately what they are, what are their beliefs, what are their attitudes, what are their what are their belief systems and things like that make a big difference, right? So do you get this? So basically what it says is what you are makes you behave in a particular way, and your behavior impacts the way others feel to be around you, and that feeling impacts the way they perform, and that ultimately impacts the organizational results. It's pretty commonsensical, isn't it? Right? So organizational results are impacted by how employees feel to be part of the organization, or their on-the-job performance, and that is impacted by the leader. So the leader still has a big role to play, right? And a Harvard study done some time back indicates that this change, this impact is as much as 70% here. That is, given everything else being the same, the canteen being the same, or whether you are allowed to come in sneakers and shorts, or whether you are asked to come in suit and tie, or whatever it is, other things being the same, between two leaders, one leader can make up to 70% difference just by his or her behavior, the way he or she behaves with the employees. So the leadership behavior is a big factor, and it's a statistically proven one. And the other one is that the employee's feeling itself impacts up to 30% of their on-the-job performance. The other things, of course, being the tools, techniques, knowledge, strategy, and stuff like that. So you see how much important the leader's behavior is in an organization. And that is something that we need to really understand, because when you move into a leadership position in an organization, remember this: other things being equal, you can make a difference. You can make a difference in the lives of the people. You can make a difference in the research, the team research that your team produces, and you can make a difference in the ultimate organizational results just by being you and focusing on your behavior. So that is something that I want us to remember. That is why leadership is a big deal, and that is why there is so much studies and things like that happen in the leadership, right? And leadership is obviously a function of behavior and so let's say that I'm generally a very cheerful guy, right? And what's your name? Ajay. Yeah. So let's say that I'm walking around and Ajay gives me a tight slap. Do you think my behavior will change? Yes, certainly, right? What has changed? Now, situation, right? And so the behavior is basically a function of the situation and ourselves. But tell me, how much control do we really have on situations normally? Very little, right? Absolutely, yeah. We don't have we can't control the situation, right? We didn't choose our parents, right? And we didn't choose our siblings, and maybe many of us won't choose our spouses, right? But we make it work, right? Ultimately, so we may not have control over the situation, but if we focus on us and our behavior, we still can behave in a manner that will meet that other objective what we talked about, right? So that is why we need to understand what is this person that we are talking about, right? Any of you have heard about David McClelland? Yeah, he did some study in India actually, right? But so basically, do you know what this is? This is an iceberg. Characteristic of an iceberg? Only 10% is seen, 90% is not seen, right? A person is actually like this. What we generally end up seeing is the skills and knowledge that the person possesses. But below that are a multitude of things, right? Some of them being the image, the self-image that person carries, or the social image that person carries. What do I want to be seen as, right? That drives it. And below that, of course, we have the values that the person goes by. Do I value honesty? Do I value integrity? Do I value or do I value fame and richnesses and things like that, and the personality traits, right, of me that I am born with, and below that, all of that is what we call as the motives, right? And it's an interesting study to understand what the motives are. There are three kinds of motives actually: affiliative motive, right? Then the power motive, and power motive itself is two types, right? There is a socialized power and then personalized power. Do I want power for myself, or do I want power for the society that I represent and stuff like that? So what David McClellan says is this, that the more deeper you go into the iceberg, it is more difficult for you to change yourself, right? It is easy to acquire a skill or a knowledge or a certificate, but the change of motive is a lot more difficult, right? And that is really what ultimately makes it the change of behavior very difficult, right? So as a person, we need to be able to look at this iceberg and say, which layer am I required to work so that my leadership behavior changes, right? And that's really a challenge for all of us, right? Because if we work only on the right skills and knowledge area, it will not give us results. It will not give us results, right? So let me quickly go through the history of this thing. But before that, let me also give you this thing. As individuals, I'm sure none of us want to wake up every morning and say that, oh good, there's yet another day, I got to just go through this day because the day is there and stuff like that, isn't it? But have you seen people who are like that? Who just go through the day just because the day is there, right? And so that is basically people who call, who live what we call as a life of survival. They survive because the life is there, right? And then at the other end, you also see people who get up in the morning and say, hey, look, I want to achieve something today. I want to get something more today. I want to acquire a degree. I want to get a better smartphone. I want to, do better and things like that, right? People who have lead a life of success, but primarily for themselves. They acquire things for themselves and things like that. So if you actually look at, the adding value to self continuum, you would see that the people in the life of survival add very low value to themselves, and the other end obviously add very high value to themselves. Then there's a third category of people who actually allow others to climb over you willingly, saying that, look, I am nothing. I have nothing to offer. You can use me as a foot mat and and do whatever you want. And so basically, people who lead what I call as a life of self-abasement, they put themselves down so much to give value to others, right? That is the third category of people who do this. And again, looking at the continuum of adding value to others, these people add probably high value to the others, but very low value to ourselves, right? Now, what leadership really requires to begin with is the desire to actually add value to self and add value to others, right? Many of you, most of you would have traveled by airline by now, right? And you know the standard announcement that comes when they say that, no, in the case of loss of cabin pressure, the oxygen mask will fall down, and you pull it and place it on your mouth, breathe normally, and all that stuff. And then they say, secure your mask first before you assist others, right? If you do not add value to yourself, you cannot add value to others, right? So that is one of the things that we need to be able to look at, and that is what we call as the life of significance. So as a leader, that is something where we need to start looking at. Am I adding value? Am I leading a life of significance? Am I adding value to myself and adding value to others, right? Now, some of you may be thinking, look, this is not enough. Yes, I agree. There is a higher level of life, which is called the life of sacrifice. Probably the life that Mother Teresa led, or Martin Luther King did, or Nelson Mandela was, and things like that. So there are people who reach that level of sacrifice. But the beginning point is to lead a life of significance by adding value to ourselves and adding value to others. So I want you to keep this in mind when we talk about the individual as a person, right? So as a person, first and foremost, look at the whole picture. Don't look at your skills and knowledge alone, and be able to willing to dive down that iceberg and see where you want to make the changes and things like that. And second is, let us at least lead a life of significance to begin with, and that's when your leadership journey begins. You are all students, if you haven't, you will be going through this. Leadership can be studied in multiple ways. Okay, one of the ways is then comes the leadership theory, right? There was a time when people thought that leaders are born, not made, and only great men who are born can be leaders, right? So that was the very first leadership theory, and from there, we have reached a long way where we talk about transformational leaders and things like that. And the third way of studying leadership is through the leadership style, the behavior, right? So democratic leaders, charismatic leaders, autocratic, delegative leaders and things like that. And then there is a new breed of leadership concepts which are coming up, which is called as the non-leader-centric styles, which is the transformational leadership style, which basically talks about the overall upliftment of the team and things like that. And then the concept called servant leadership, right? So there are obviously multiple leadership theories that come in, right? And what leaders have also found is that beyond all this, right, how do we use power within leadership? Leadership and power have always been mingled together, right? We know that, right? And we also know that give someone, power corrupts, absolute power corrupts absolutely, and all that stuff, And then T.S. Eliot said, half the harm that is done in the world is caused by people who have power and to want to feel important, right? So those are some of the, things that has been studied. But when it comes to leadership, people have started looking at how can we use power. We can't separate power from leadership. Power automatically comes with leadership. We can't separate it, but what is the best way to use power in leadership, right? So those studies have come in, and people have started looking at that as a good thing. And so what has been looked at is, can we use shared power for self-empowerment, right? Can we use power in a more spiritualistic sense, and can we use it to energize and create as a spiritual force and things like that. And as the world got more complex, things like spirituality got inculcated into leadership. There are some good concepts in spirituality. Though there are people who said religion itself is actually a problem, because somebody starts off with some sort of principles, and then it ultimately gets into a charisma, and into a traditional authority. But ultimately, there are people who found value in bringing spirituality into the leadership. So you would find leadership principles from the Gita, from Bible, from Quran, and from Buddhism and all that. From the religious point of view, what are some of the leadership principles that can be inculcated into the leadership principles, right? And then of course ethics became a big issue. Became a big issue, and this is actually a big issue, especially for us in India. I know you are all probably very young, but let's assume a parent who has got a child who is going to school, right? And if that parent gets a call from the school principal, what is generally the parent's reaction? Yeah. So typically you will think that you are in trouble, right? That's the first thing. Hey, okay, I'm in trouble. My son, daughter has done something wrong, right? So here is a couple who gets a call like that from the principal, saying that, hey, look, please come down to my office. I want to see you. I want to speak to you. So these two people go to the principal's office, trembling with fear, and sits down in front of the principal. The principal tells them, look, their son is studying in second standard, right? So the principal tells them, your son has got a problem. And the problem is that he steals pencils and erasers and papers from his classmates, right? we got to fix it. We got to do something about it. It's becoming an issue. So the father is very, very upset. Father is annoyed. He would naturally would be, and he says, "Madam, I don't know. I'm really disappointed in my son, and I don't know why he should do it, because everything that he needs and a lot more than what he needs, I can bring it from my office and give it to him." Do you get the point? Do you see where the child derives his principle of ethics and integrity from? Right? And especially in India, we live in a culture that is, where integrity is not black and white, right? Thoda adjust karo yaar is a normal thing, right? We just got to adjust a little bit, right? And then we can move on, right? So that is typically it is Sun Tzu, the Chinese guy, The Art of War. The Art of War, right? So he is the one who wrote that. So so he basically says that that leadership needs to be balanced. If you depend on any one of them, it becomes a danger, right? And our own friend Chanakya, right? He says the king is nothing but a servant of the people whom they serve, right? So this concept that the leadership is not just about power has been there for a long time, right? But unfortunately, we see leaders, right? Aren't they leaders? They are leaders. You may debate whether they are good leaders or bad leaders, but weren't they leaders? They had very large, very, very huge followings, right? And they led maybe into destruction, but they did lead. And so when we think about this, we actually start shuddering. Why does it happen, right? So there are two reasons why it happens. One of them is about in that iceberg, the personal motives that matter. So if the personal motive is what we call as the personalized power, then you will have problems. So we will need to be careful about choosing leaders or ourselves. What is my power? What is my ulterior motive at the bottom of the pyramid? The second one is very interesting. It's actually developed by a sociologist called Donald Cressy. Now he brought about this concept called the fraud triangle. Right now, the term fraud, don't use it generally, but what he says is this: if you have a need, and as human beings, do we have needs? Always, we always have something, a need which is not met, right? If all our needs are met, we reach nirvana, correct? So we are not there yet. We are normal human beings because we have needs, right? Now what he says is, when you have a need and when you see an opportunity, and opportunities come, and you also see a chance for rationalizing your action, you will commit a fraud. Sounds ominous for an evening. So when three things are met, when there is a need, when there is an opportunity to meet that need incorrectly, and you know that you can rationalize your act, you know that I did it because, and you are happy with saying that, you will commit a fraud. So what he says is actually that any corruption activity actually can be explained because of this. There will always be a need. There is an opportunity, whether you take Satyan Raju, for example, right, or you take the Enron chief, for example, or anyone else whom we want to look at, criminals for that matter, it is always this. There is a need. It could be physical, it could be material, it could be sexual, whatever it could be. And then there is an opportunity. You see somebody alone, you see money lying around, or you see an opportunity to fabricate your numbers or whatever, and then you have the chance to rationalize, saying that I did it because all that. And so this is something that as leaders we need to be very, very aware of, very, very aware of, because if we fall into this fraud triangle, we are going to be like the leaders whom we showed earlier. So that is something that we need to be very, very aware of. how do we do this, and then things like that, right? So I painted a black picture till now, right? So is there a solution? Is there a solution? Now, what I've studied is this concept called servant leadership. Right? Servant leadership, where basically I believe, Victor Hugo said this, that there is nothing as powerful as an idea whose time has come. Right? And I believe that there is a concept of servant leadership whose time is coming now, especially because of the complexities that the world is going through, the turmoils that the world is going through, and things like that. So Robert Greenleaf was a vice president at AT&T, and he came across this concept of servant leadership, and he propounded it. And then there are multiple things. So basically, servant leadership is a leadership which is focused on the welfare of the followers, of the. It is basically thinking about others. It is about it is conserving others' needs than our own needs. It is being other-centric than self-centric. Right? It is being being interested. So I'm sure none of you are going to wake up tomorrow morning and say that I want to be a servant. Right? It's not a term that is now socially acceptable. Right? So I don't want to push that term servant. But that is what the leadership is named. But the concept is that basically be interested and drive your actions on what others need and then things like that. So basically, Robert Greenleaf says this. He says, how do you know whether somebody is a servant leader or not? Is by looking at those who are his followers, his or her followers, and seeing whether they have become better, wiser, richer, healthier, more famous, etc., than yourself. Do you get that point? How do you know somebody is a servant leader? It's just by looking at not at him or her, but at looking at the followers and seeing whether they have become better than the leader himself or herself. That is when you really, become a servant leader. Now, I know it is probably sounds utopian to talk about it, right? Is it possible? Is it practical? And all that questions would be there in our minds. But what it says is there are certain very tangible behaviors and attributes associated with servant leadership. And I will just flash it. We won't have time to go through each of them. These are some of the 10 what we call as the attributes of servant leadership, like stewardship, commitment to the growth of others, emotional healing, awareness, persuading, listening, building community, conceptualization, foresight, and things like that. And what researchers have also come across is if you have these, these are what we call as the behavior patterns that people will exhibit. If you are a servant leader, you will empower others, you will build communities, you will be able to heal emotionally others, you will be able to behave ethically, and you will be able to put others' need first. Forget the term subordinates, is typically an American term. Basically, it means putting others first and helping others to grow and succeed and things like that. So this is our basically how we say the attributes versus the behavior patterns and things like that. So I ask this question now: is it something that is real, or is it something that is just a good model, good theoretical model? Is it something that is practical, or is it good? It sounds good in paper. It sounds good in a evening session to feel good about it, right? It is like going to a temple or a church or wherever, and then you come out cleansed, right? So is it just that, or is there reality? Is it really a practical model, right? So for my doctoral studies, I went ahead and studied this implementation leadership, and what I found was amazing. What I found is that if people in an organization exhibit servant leadership characteristic, it impacts their commitment to the organization by as much as 69%, and that in turn impacts the employees on the job performance by as much as 29%, right? And then there is a direct almost 20% impact that the leadership behavior can have. So this is an empirical study that I did in almost about 56 odd NGOs in India. So basically what I wanted to say was, yes, it works. Yes, it is beneficial, right? Now, you can always say, okay, you did the study in NGOs. NGOs are anyway supposed to be like that, be good, do good, and all that stuff. So maybe you did the wrong organization. So I went and studied for-profit organizations, right? And what I found is amazing. Some of the world's best Fortune 100 organizations that employees love to work in. These are profit-making organizations, growing organizations. They claim that they practice some form of servant leadership, right? And you know these brands. Most of them you will know at least, right? Southeast Airlines, for example, very good case, very good case study. I mean, it would be very nice if one of you pick up some of these and study them as a case study. If you ever take up leadership and understand what made them different, right? So there are multiple areas, like contractors. And unfortunately, this data is not available in India. So don't sort of shoot me for bringing out examples. US, we somehow don't have this database available in India. So I have to pick up from the US. Right. So whether it is grocery or electrical service or airlines or insurance, there are multiple, all walks of organizations who have followed this and become successful. Right. One specific case of this Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A is basically, they of course exist only in the US. It is said that somebody who walks into a Chick-fil-A outlet will almost always go back to a Chick-fil-A outlet, and it's only because their employees have this motto of raving fan clients. They take pains to create raving fans from their clients who walk in, and they do this through some sort of a storytelling methodology and all that. And their leadership principle is called SERVE, and that SERVE is an acronym that they use. So it's a very successful organization selling chicken. That's all, but they make a good profit, and their employees are very happy about working for their organization. So that's really what I wanted to leave you with. That look, in a complex world that we live in, we option. Right. Now, the question is always, can somebody impose servant leadership on somebody else? Right. Now, the difference between having to do something and choosing to do something. Which is better? Choosing to do something, right? Yeah. When I go shopping with my wife, I have her permission to say this, by the way. When I go shopping with my wife, after the second shop and the third shop, she's all charged up to get into the fourth shop and the fifth shop, and I start looking for a coffee shop. What's the difference? The difference is it is an activity that she chose to do, and it is an activity that I had to do because I'm her husband, I love her, ultimately I will go back home with her, right? So, but the difference is when you choose to do something, it energizes you, right? If you have to do something, it drains your energy, right? So, servant leadership is not a style that will succeed if you are forced to do it. It has to come naturally to you, and you have to really choose to do it. So I hope that some of you will choose that at some point in time, and make greater organizations, make greater families, make greater society, and things like that. That's really the thought that I wanted to leave you with this evening. So, to summarize, we saw three themes. That is, we saw that as leaders, we need to start with leading a significant life, adding value to self, adding value to others. We saw that we need to influence others, and there are multiple ways of influencing others. We can choose to use the power and authority that is vested in us, or we can choose to serve others' needs, right? to serve others, to be really interested in the welfare of others and influence them through that, right? So that is an option that we have, and HIS is an acronym. It stands for humility, integrity, and simplicity, right? So those are hallmarks of great leaders. You would find them in these places. So those are the overarching themes that I would like you to remember, and I believe that it is really a time for a different leadership style that has come, and that is the servant leadership style, right? So let me basically the leadership is something that has been studied, and there's always this need for us to get better leaders, and I guess this has converged into this concept of servant leadership. So I encourage at least some of you to study that and see what you could do, because it is something that has been found to work. It works, right? So it is not just a theoretical model. It is not just up in the air. It's actually something that can be practiced and measured, and you can really make profit out of that. But before I close, let me give you one more charge before I open it up for more questions. All of you know, you would have observed children, right? Let us say you have there is a little girl, let's say about 1 year old, okay? A cute little girl, 1 year old girl. Does she know cycling? No. It would be a miracle if she does, right? Is she worried about it? No. Why is she not worried about it? She doesn't care. All that she cares about is to be fed at the right time, to be cleansed, to be kept comfortable, to be put to bed, and to be allowed to sleep, and that's all that she needs, and she knows how to get that done, right? Now fast forward, let's say another 3 years or so, she becomes 3 or 4 years, and she's living in a society. She goes out and she starts seeing maybe people of her own age or maybe slightly older kids enjoying an activity called cycling. And what happens to her? Yeah, but why does she want to do it? Because she becomes aware that there is something cool that the other kids are doing, and I don't know it. How could it be, right? So what will she do? She will go trouble her mother and father. They will ultimately buy her a cycle or a tricycle or a bicycle with supporting wheels or whatever it is, run behind her, help her to learn the act of cycling, and at one day, after whatever time it takes, she will ride the bicycle herself without the support wheels and without her mama, papa running behind her, right? Now, on the very first day that she is riding the bicycle, what's her mindset? What is in her mind? What is going through her mind? Sorry? Yeah, she is aware that she is likely to fall, and because of that, what happens? she may fall, but what is she thinking about? Because of that thought, so she is of course excited. She is happy that finally she is able to do this stuff, but she is actually thinking about the act of cycling, isn't it? She is thinking about her posture. She is thinking about how fast she should push the pedal or how much force she should apply. She is thinking about how to hold the handlebar. She is thinking about when to apply the brake. She is thinking about when to make a turn. She is thinking about when to ring the bell, etc., etc. In other words, she is thinking about every single act of the activity called cycling, isn't it? Fast forward 6 months. What happens? Ma, no hands. Is she thinking about cycling when she is doing cycling? No. What is she thinking about? Everything else other than cycling, isn't it? Now, why I told you this story is I want you to link up and know that learning follows this cycle. Learning follows the cycle, and that is what this is. You begin here where the little girl didn't know what she didn't know, and she was unconscious about her incompetence. Unconscious about her incompetence. So that is called the unconscious incompetence stage. And from there, she becomes aware of what others are doing and moves into what we call as conscious incompetence stage, where she becomes conscious about what she doesn't know. and then she practices, and through the practice she becomes competent, but consciously competent, right? She is doing it consciously, and from there she ultimately reaches the stage of she can do it without thinking about it, without being conscious about it. It comes to her naturally, it becomes a habit, and she is able to do it without any problem and things like that, right? Now what I want to highlight is this: there is no shortcut between this and this. Between this conscious incompetence, when you come to know that there is something that I didn't know, and being able to practice it without thinking about it, there is no shortcut. There is no shortcut. If you really want to reach this stage, you have to go through this stage. And that comes only when you practice what you learn intentionally, right? So during your course of stay here, studies, you will learn a lot of things, right? My request to you is pick up what is important for you and make a commitment to practice it intentionally. And that goes same for this evening session. If there is something that is attractive to you, sounded attractive to you, pick up that and try to practice it intentionally, because otherwise tomorrow you're getting into classes and your assignments and your project works and all that stuff, you'll forget about it. Human memory fades 72% in 24 hours and 98% in 48 hours, right? You'll forget about this evening altogether. Right? If you don't have to, if you don't want to, pick up at least a few of those things, few of those concepts, and make an intentional commitment to practice it. Okay? I'll leave you with that. Questions, comments, what you didn't like, what you liked, whatever. Over to you. Yeah.